Good afternoon and Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to our session today. All information contained herein is provided solely for educational purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for professional or legal advice. Should you decide to act upon any information contained in this presentation, you do so at your own risk. While the information posted has been verified to the best of our abilities, we cannot guarantee that there are no mistakes or errors. This is the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. Today, we are presenting the 2023 Hazardous Waste Annual Reporting Webinar. We will be muting everyone except for the speaker. However, just as a precaution, go ahead and keep yourself muted individually as well. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the Q&A option. Type in your questions and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. A recording of this webinar will be available on the Hazardous Waste Permits webpage and the LDEQ YouTube page. There will be a poll at the end of this webinar to provide your feedback, so please complete before logging off. We have three presenters today, all from the Waste Notifications and Reporting Group in the Office of Environmental Services. Our first presenter is Jennifer Williams. Jennifer has worked as an environmental scientist for almost 3 years. She is a United States Army veteran and has a bachelor's degree in biology with a concentration in biochemistry and a chemistry minor. Our next presenter will be Catherine Cooper. Catherine is also an environmental scientist and has been with the agency for almost a year. She has a bachelor's degree in biology. Kenneth Edwards will also present today. Kenneth is also an environmental scientist and has been with the agency for almost 2 years. He has a degree in biology with a concentration in marine life and a minor in sociology. We will begin today with Jennifer, and she will be followed by Catherine, then Kenneth, then Jennifer will be back again to wrap it up. So Jennifer, if you're ready, let's begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jennifer Williams, and welcome to the 2023 Hazardous Waste Annual Report Workshop. So the topics we will discuss today include who has to submit, submitting the biennial report, and also walkthroughs of submitting electronically, the HW1 form, and the RCRA Subtitle C reporting forms. The department will continue to use RCRA Info for the electronic option for the 2023 report. You can find links to the forms and RCRA Info at our website. Contact information will also be provided for the Waste Notification and Reporting Group, the Surveillance Regional Offices, and the Small Business Assistance Program. A slide of helpful online resources will also be provided at the end of this presentation. You can submit your questions at any time using the questions and answers button and note the specific form and/or section of your question. All questions will be answered at the end. This will be recorded and posted at a later date on our website and YouTube channel later for easy review. So who has to submit the annual report? A facility that met the definition of a large quantity generator, a facility that treats, stores, disposes, and recycles hazardous waste on-site, or ships the hazardous waste off-site to a TSD, and a facility that receives waste from off-site generators. An easy way that we check to see if you need to submit the report is if you are currently or were at one point in the year registered as a large quantity generator. The EPA requires the RCRA hazardous waste report to be submitted every other year, which is called the biennial report. And Louisiana requires the RCRA hazardous waste report to be submitted every year, so we do refer to it as the annual report. This will be a biennial reporting year. The report can be submitted electronically using the RCRA Info module and is highly encouraged. Reports are due March 1st. You do not have to submit a hard copy if you submit it electronically. However, if you do start to submit electronically, but you decide to submit using the paper forms, the electronic submission must be fully deleted in RCRA info before the paper submittal can be accepted. There must be one person with an industry user account at the facility, which is just a RCRA info account, in order to submit the report through RCRA info. If you submit discharge monitoring reports, that's the DMRs, if you submit those electronically through CDX, you can use that user account to log into RCRA info. Submitting the paper forms. So the HW1 form is the state form, and the site identification form is the federal form. They're both interchangeable, so you can use either one to submit your report. You want to make sure all applicable forms are completed, the HW1 form or the site identification form, the generation and management form, the waste received from offsite form, and the offsite identification form. Double check to ensure their original wetting signatures in the certification section and mail the completed forms. We do have 2 addresses listed due to issues with FedEx not accepting the PO box, so our physical address can be used as another option to mail the paper forms. And forms tend to reach us quicker if you use the FedEx address, so keep that in mind if you're looking at that due date of March 1st. Registering as an industry user. Every facility must have an industry user to submit the electronic report. RCRAinfo.epa.gov is the website to access the RCRA Info home screen. Links to RCRA Info are also available on the Hazardous Waste webpage. When you get to the RCRA Info home screen, underneath the sign-in, you will see Register. The facility must have a registered industry user in RCRA Info that has at least the certifier or site management permissions. You'll insert your name, then you'll click Next. Then you'll insert a username and password. And these questions will be used if you ever need to request a user ID or password reset. You'll agree to the terms, click Next, and then you'll enter the information to sign up. So now you've signed up for an industry user account. Connecting to the facility and requesting permissions. So requesting a new site ID is when a facility is applying for an EPA ID number, and Louisiana has not opted into this method. So you'll click on the Select Existing Site. You can search by the EPA ID number, or you can search by the site name, state, and the zip code. Now you'll choose the site, click Request Access, and now you need to request your permissions. Site management can view, edit, and sign the report. Annual report and biennial reporting. You choose between viewer, prepare, and certifier. A viewer can only look at the report. A preparer can only edit the data in the report. And a certifier can edit, sign, and submit the data in the report. Since Louisiana requires reports every year, you will need to be approved for the annual report and biennial report. Every facility must have at least one industry user registered as a certifier or site manager to submit the report. The site manager or certifier must be an authorized representative. An authorized representative is someone who is responsible for the overall operation of the site or an operational unit. For example, the plant manager or superintendent. RCRA Info will send an email once the permissions requested have been accepted or denied. We recommend facilities have more than one person with permissions because if you have one person with site manager permissions and they leave the company, if they still have those permissions, they will still receive all the permissions requests for that facility. And we will not receive those requests. But also remember, whoever is the site manager or whoever chooses to be that site manager, they have to have the appropriate title within the facility. So electronic signature agreement. Now the next few slides will only pertain to certifiers and site managers. At your first login, after being approved as a certifier or site manager, you will be prompted to complete the electronic signature agreement and prove your identity. You want to make sure you memorize these questions and answers. You will be asked to answer them when you certify the report. You will need to put your personal information if you choose to complete the online verification, which is the default choice and the quickest method to be verified. You will be either approved or denied within seconds by RCRA Info. Check that you agree, and then verify and sign. Now, if you opt into the paper-based option, you will need to mail the original form with an original wetting signature to DEQ. It will pre-populate the table with the information you inputted from the registration process. You can find other pertinent information if you scroll down. Now, if you have been approved to be a site manager and have been verified, RCRA Info will prompt you to opt into the electronic signature agreement management. This will allow you to receive paper electronic signature agreements from people affiliated with your connected sites. In other words, this will give you the opportunity to approve requests to be viewers, preparers, or certifiers for your facilities, and will drastically speed up the approval process. It will default to no, so if you want to opt in, you'll click no. All the required information pre-populates with the information you gave in the registration process. Confirm that you agree, and then click Save and Continue. Now we'll go through completing the report. So one of the new features added to the dashboard is the Overview tab. This gives an overview of all outstanding reports and requests for facilities that you have permission for. The site name will only be a hyperlink if you have permissions to access that type of report. For instance, if you only have annual report permissions, you will not be able to access biennial report for this reporting year. So the site name would not be a hyperlink. Also, the current status of the report is shown under the action item column. You can see that both facilities have reports that are awaiting submission. Until the report is certified and submitted, it will remain in draft status. Now the permission status is now active, and the site name is in blue font. This is a hyperlink that will take you to the dashboard to work or view the reports. And this is the main dashboard. In this example, we have access to the biennial report, annual report, and e-manifest because we were approved as a site manager. If you only registered as a viewer of the annual report, you will not see the e-manifest or biennial report tabs, for example. If any of this pre-populated information is incorrect, you can update it in the SI form. You'll click on the biennial report tab since this is a biennial reporting year. Also, one thing I would like to note is that if there is a pending report, you will not see this Create New Submission button. RCRA Info does not allow you to start another report if there is one pending. Meaning if someone submitted a biennial report for 2021 that has not been reviewed and accepted, you will not see this Create New Submission button. So if there are any outstanding reports out there that were never submitted to DEQ for review, you're not going to see this create new submission button if it's still pending. And also there's a new exempt option that is prompted by clicking the click here hyperlink. I'm not going to discuss the details now. I will circle back and go over this process in more detail later. So now you'll change screens, and if you click upload a file, it will prompt you to upload a zip file with the GM and WR form data or continue to data entry. If you choose to upload the data, the OI form and SI form will need to be completed manually. So for the sake of speed, we will not upload and just continue to data entry. You also have the option to use the GM data from the most recent reporting cycle. If you do bring forward data, you will still need to complete some sections of the GM form manually. Again, for the sake of this workshop, we will not bring forward any previous data. So now on to the summary of the forms. The SI form is fulfilling the re-notification requirement of large quantity generators. So the information should pertain to the current status of the facility. The GM, WR, and OI form is describing the hazardous waste and how it was managed during the reporting year. The Waste Notifications and Reporting Group cannot give you specifics for how to classify your waste, nor classify your facility's regulated hazardous waste activities. You will need to contact someone in the Surveillance Regional Office for your facility. The regional contact office information will be given at the end of this presentation. So now we'll go into the specifics of each form. This is the Generation and Management form, also known as the GM form. It's for reporting on-site hazardous waste generation and management and off-site shipment in the reporting year. So you'll click Add New GM Form. And for Section A, it's just a short explanation of the waste, the general type, source, type of hazard, and generic chemical name of the waste. For Section B, you'll select one or more 4-digit codes that applies to the waste. You must have at least one code listed. You can find a short description of the federal hazardous waste codes in the RCRA Subtitle C reporting forms, in the Louisiana Administrative Code Title 33, Part 5, Chapter 4901, or one can be emailed upon request. And you'll enter the source code, form code, waste minimization code. Now, for the unit of measurement, if you choose codes 5 through 7 in the unit of measurement, then you will need to input the density and the density units. And for the on-site generation and management of hazardous waste, you'll enter the information, all the codes. All right, and for the unit of measurement, it will automatically be what was chosen in Section H earlier. So just as a reminder, starting with the 2023 biennial report, so this report, there are new and deactivated management method codes. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're entering the data. It's not going to be available on the electronic end as far as all the deactivated codes, but kind of keep that in mind. They have replaced some codes, they have deactivated some codes, and they've also added new codes. And for the off-site shipment of hazardous waste, you'll enter the information. Now to add off-site facilities, you can search by the site ID or the name or the location city. Only the sites registered as a TSD facility will be listed. You'll enter the information. And you can see that it pre-populates the required information about the offsite facility when you make a choice. We'll continue to enter the rest of the information. So just a reminder, if the amount generated doesn't match what was managed on site or shipped off site, then RCRA will ask you to review the information. If there's a discrepancy in the quantities, then you'll just add a comment describing why. So it could be a case to where maybe you generated the waste in 1 year, but it was transported in a different year. This will be a discrepancy because it's 2 different years of generation versus transporting. Okay, now the GM form data is now summarized in the table, and you can print, edit, or delete each page of the GM form using the icons under Action. You'll repeat these steps to add as many times as needed. And you will notice that the OI form was already pre-populated with the information we listed in the GM form for the receiving facility. So the next form is the waste received from offsite form, the WR form. This identifies hazardous waste that was received from other hazardous waste sites and the methods used to manage them. So just like the GM form, you will click Add New WR Form. And a similar process, similar information. Section A, just a short explanation of the waste, the general type, source, type of hazard, and generic chemical name of the waste. Section B, the 4-digit codes that applies to the waste. And for Section D, you can search for the information by just the site ID or by the site name, city, state, and zip code for the offsite handler or the generator information. It will pull up a list of the search results, and once you make a choice by clicking on the blue site ID form, it will pre-populate the pertinent information on the WR form. You'll enter all the information as far as the codes, form code, management method code, and the quantity of the waste. And just like the GM form for the unit of measurement, if you choose codes 5 through 7, then you will need to input the density and density units. And you'll save. And the WR form page data is now summarized in the table. Again, you can print, edit, or delete each page of the WR form using the icons under Action. You will repeat these steps to add as many times as needed. Also, you will notice that the OI form was already pre-populated with the generator information we listed in the WR form. So next is the Offsite Identification Form, the OI form. This documents the names and addresses of all off-site generators, receiving facilities, and transporters that were used during the reporting year. RCRA info will automatically input receiving facilities and generating facilities, but transporters will need to be entered manually. RCRA info will not remind you to add the transporters since not all states require this information. However, Louisiana does require transporters to be listed. And I can tell you that this is the #1 reason we reject reports. Also, you cannot search for the transporter in this form, so make sure the EPA ID number for the transporter is correct. If the EPA ID number is valid, it will pre-populate the information for the transporter. You want to also make sure to choose the correct type of activity. And you'll save. And you'll repeat these steps to add as many transporters as needed. You can print, edit, or delete each page of the OI form using the icons under the action column. Now the SI form. This describes the facility's regulated hazardous waste activities at the time of completion and lists contact and ownership operatorship information. You'll add the site ID form. The SI form is already filled out with the info for the facility from previous submittals. Make sure that the information is correct and up to date. If you make any changes to the information, please list the changes in the comments section. So now we'll go through the SI portion. Section 1 and 2 are already completed, of course. Section 3 is the site name. Section 4 is the site location. If you change the site address, you might need to open a new EPA ID number. EPA ID numbers are site specific and do not move to new locations. Section 5 is the site mailing address. Section 6 is the site land type. Section 7 is the NAICS codes. You can add multiple codes if necessary. If you're unsure what codes are best suited for your facility, you can search using keywords. If you only remember some of the numbers, you can also search using numbers. For Section 8, that's the site contact. This is who we will contact to inquire about issues with the report or any other hazardous waste inquiries. So you want to ensure the information is accurate and up to date. For Section 9, legal owner of facility. This is the entity that owns the business. Legal owner of the property. This is the entity that owns the land. Legal operator. That's the entity that runs the business. So you want to make sure only the current owner, property owner if applicable, and operators are listed. You can edit or delete using the pencil and the X in this column. If an owner or operator needs to be added, click on the Add button and fill in the information. And add either an email or phone is required. We do prefer both, but if you don't have both, at least one is required. If you're adding the property owner, please note that in the comments. You can also copy the information from other areas in the SI form by clicking on the Copy From at the top right of the window. You'll save the changes and do this as many times as needed. For Section 10, this is the regulated hazardous waste. For the regulated waste activity, select what best describes the current status of the facility, not what the facility was during the reporting year. And again, we cannot give you specifics for this info and preceding sections. You will need to contact your surveillance regional office if you have any questions about waste specific information. For Section 11, this is a continuation of the type of regulated hazardous waste activities. You'll just select what applies to the facility activities. Louisiana has not adopted the activities listed in Section 11D, which is pharmaceutical activities, and Section 12, eligible academic entities with laboratories. If the facility has consolidated waste from very small quantity generators that are owned by the same entity, Section 14 will need to be completed. To add the very small quantity generator, add and input the very small quantity generator's information. Remember to enter the EPA ID number for the very small quantity generators if applicable. RCRA info will not remind you since not all states require very small quantity generators to have an EPA ID number. You cannot search for the EPA ID number in this section, so make sure you're entering the correct EPA ID number. Section 15. A facility can notify of a large quantity generator site closure using the hazardous waste biennial report. However, a hard copy of the form and the required cover letter, including the additional information per Louisiana Administrative Code, Title 33, Part 5, Chapter 1015, B8B, must be submitted to fulfill the initial notification of closure. You do not have to complete Section 16 for the biennial report if you're not closing. However, if you are using the biennial report to close the large quantity generator facility, the LQG closure regulations must be followed. For Section 16, HSM activity. The steps to notify about the hazardous secondary material activities are as follows. I'll go through the progressions. And you'll click if you're re-notifying or maybe you stop managing hazardous secondary materials. You'll enter that information, which is required. Enter all the code information. And just a small note, HSM estimated quantities on hazardous waste notifications should match the HSM data on the hazardous waste biennial report. For example, if the facility submitted an HW1 form during the reporting year notifying of HSM activities, the estimated HSM quantities on the HW1 form should match the estimated quantities reported on the biennial report. If you have inquiries about the quantities, contact DEQ or refer to the EDMS for the prior notification to see what was listed. And this is a continuance of entering the HSM information. You'll add everything that you need to add. And in this case, the estimated and the actual actually matches. Into the rest of the codes, you'll save your changes. Now, once you have completed the SI form, you'll review it. If there is missing information, RCRA Info will scroll to that section. If there are no outstanding issues, RCRA Info will scroll back to the top so you can double check that the information is correct. Once you make it back to the bottom, the review button will now say save. You'll click save, and RCRA Info will take you back to the main working page, and a small summary table will show up. You can edit or print the SI form using the icons under the action column. So also a new feature in the RCRA Info biennial and annual reporting modules is the validation button. Before you can sign and send the submission, the data must be validated. So you'll click the validate button. And the validations are categorized by errors and warnings. If the validation triggers an error, you must correct the data before you can proceed. You will not be able to mark your submission ready for signature or sign and submit until this is completed. If the validation triggers a warning, you may either correct the data if it's an error so that the warning is no longer triggered, or you can provide an explanation in the explanation box to indicate why the data is not an error. And as you can see with this report, it has several warnings. And it differentiates between the form. It also tells you if you submitted several GM forms or several WR forms or OI forms. It tells you the specific page number as well, so you can go and find it easily. And also, you cannot proceed and submit the report until the explanations are given. So now you would provide the explanations. Once the report is submitted, the explanations will be reviewed by us. If the explanations are not satisfactory, we may ask for additional information before accepting the report. And this is also a validation example. And this is an example of the validation screen if the report doesn't have a lot of issues. In this case, the warning may have been triggered because the facility didn't report in 2021, because maybe they weren't a generator in 2021, or maybe they weren't registered as a large quantity generator. Once the explanations are given, you would sign and submit. So the exempt option. During the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned I will circle back and go into detail about the exempt option. The exempt option indicates that the facility is exempt from submitting the biennial report for the current cycle. However, you still have to submit the SI form to indicate your current regulatory status. In prior cycles, facilities that did not generate waste, they may have submitted a report and included an SI form and didn't include comments. Or maybe they submitted an SI form and didn't include the GM and OI forms. Usually what happens is DEQ requests the facility to either add a comment stating no waste was generated during the reporting year, or will inquire to ask, did the facility generate waste? So that we'll know that it wasn't just an SI form submitted without the additional waste information. So the BR exempt, or the biennial report exempt option, is the same concept. However, the SI form is going to require a comment. Once you click the click here hyperlink, the hyperlink will send you straight to the SI form. And as a reminder, if you choose the exempt option and you realize the facility is not exempt and you need to add waste forms, you cannot go back. You will have to delete the report and start over. So now, after completing the report or entering the exempt option through the SI form, the validation screen will be prompted. If there are any issues, the explanations will be required. If not, this will be the screen with no validation issues. Again, these are the same validation steps as earlier. However, this is a facility that does not have any waste generation data forms. So now you have entered all the data for the reporting year. It's been validated, and now it's time to certify and submit. And now I'm going to go through the progressions of signing and submitting the form. You'll click sign and submit, accept, enter your username and password, log in, answer your verification question, and click sign. Once submitted, it will take you back to the biennial report tab. The in progress table will be filled in with a summary of the data from the report, and the status column now says submitted. If you hover and click on the word submitted, it will show you when and who last updated the report. RCRA Info will send the certifier an email when the report is submitted, and also when the report is accepted. However, if there are any issues with the report, RCRA Info and the DEQ staff will send an email that states the report was rejected and the reason why. If the report has been rejected, it will need to be resubmitted with the corrections made. And now this ends the electronic submittal portion of the webinar. Next, my colleague Catherine Cooper will now present the paper submittal using the HW1 form.
Now we will go into details about and steps to submit the hard copy of the biennial report to LDEQ. Ensure you are using the most recent version of the HW1. The HW1 form was updated in March of 2023. If you generated or received waste, you will have to use the federal GM, OI, and WR forms as well. We will go over the federal forms later. There is a link to the HW1 form on the LDQ Hazardous Waste webpage. Section 1 is the reason for submittal, and only one option should be chosen. Provide initial notification is used when a facility is submitting to obtain an EPA ID number for the first time. Provide subsequent notification is used when a facility is updating info or re-notifying. We added 2 additional options for subsequent notification, which are self-explanatory. As a component of the annual hazardous waste report for reporting year is used when submitting the hazardous waste annual report, and the reporting year should be indicated. The site was a TSD or generator box should be marked if it applies to the facility. Submittal of a new Part A form and submittal of a revised Part A form is for hazardous waste permits. The last option to provide notification of LQG site closure for a central accumulation area or entire facility is used when submitting to close a large quantity generator. Again, if you want to use this form for the biennial report, then you must mark the corresponding box for that option. Also, make sure that you are putting the correct reporting year. If the facility was a TSD, a treater, store, or disposal, or a large quantity generator, then this box will need to be marked. Most facilities that should be submitting this form should mark this box. This EPA ID box will be located at the top of each page. Please list your EPA ID on each page. This will help keep your report together. Section 2, EPA ID. Make sure this is your correct 12-digit number. For help finding the facility's agency interest or AI number, you can contact LDEQ. Section 3, legal name. You can check what the current information for the facility is at brcrapublic.epa.gov to make sure it matches. Section 4, site location. This is the physical address of the facility. Longitude and latitude coordinates can be used here as well. Section 5, site mailing address. If this matches the site location, then mark the box and leave the section blank. Section 6 is site land type. Section 7, the NAICS. You must have at least one valid 6-digit code. NAICS.com is a great resource. Also, you can use EDMS to find past report submittals or HW1 forms to figure out what was previously submitted. Section 8, the site contact person. This is who we will contact about any issues on the form, so make sure the information is up to date and as accurate as possible. Section 9, legal owners and operator. The legal owner of the facility is who owns the business. The legal owner of the property is who owns the land. The legal operator is who runs the business. We are looking for the most accurate contact information for the owners and operator. They may all match or they may be different. If the legal owner of the property and legal operator matches the owner of the facility, you can mark the box instead of listing the information. The dates should be the best date that is available to you and must be completed in month, day, year format. Section 10, hazardous waste billing party, is a new section that was added to the HW1 form. This section should list who should receive the hazardous waste annual invoices from LDEQ. Section 11, type of regulated waste activity for current activities. Section 11A, 1, generator of hazardous waste. This section is describing the current status of the facility, not what the facility was during the reporting year. The generator status that the facility is while completing the report is a status that should be marked. A2, if yes is marked a short-term generator, you must provide comments in section 19, comment section. A3, if marking yes, do you have a hazardous waste permit or the proper approval? If not, are you really a TSD, receive waste from off-site, or recycle hazardous waste? We will verify this information. For section A4, if the facility receives waste from off-site, mark yes. Section 11A5, recycler of hazardous waste. If marking yes, do you have a hazardous waste permit or the proper approval to recycle hazardous waste? Also, RCRA info was updated and will not allow yes to be marked for this section if no is marked for section 11A4, receives hazardous waste from off-site. So yes must be marked for section 11A4, as well as if the facility is a recycler of hazardous waste. For section A6, exempt boiler and/or industrial furnace, mark yes for all options that apply to the facility. Section 11B, you must have at least one valid waste code listed. You can find the codes in the RCRA Subtitle C, Reporting Instructions, Louisiana Administrative Code, Title 33, Part 5, Chapter 4901, or a list can be emailed upon request. Please list the waste codes in order, starting in the top left, moving to the right. If you need more space, you can use the comment section. Louisiana does not have state hazardous waste codes. Waste notifications and reporting cannot give you specifics for this section. However, you can contact your regional surveillance office to assist. Section 12, additional regulated waste activities. If any of these sections apply to your facility, mark yes. A1B, if yes is marked, do you have the proper approval? You must also provide details in the comments section. B2, if yes is marked, do you have a permit? DEQ will verify if you have the proper permit or approval. Section 12C, used oil activities. C1B, if yes is marked, does the facility have the proper approval? We will verify the approval and details must be provided in the comments section. Section 12D, pharmaceutical activities. Louisiana has not adopted this activity. Section 13, eligible academic entities with labs. Louisiana has not adopted this activity. Section 14, episodic generation should not be completed because episodic generation is not an activity used by large quantity generators. Waste from approved episodic generations should not be reported on the biannual report. If you mark yes for section 15, then the addendum to the site ID form, LQG consolidation of VSQG hazardous waste must be completed. Section 16, notification of LQG site closure. As stated earlier, a facility can notify of a LQG site closure using the hazardous waste biannual report. However, the LQG closure regulations must be followed and proper documents submitted. If section 17 is marked yes, then addendum A should be completed. Section 18, electronic manifest broker notification should be submitted to the EPA because Louisiana has not adopted this program. For section 19, comments are needed if you did not generate any hazardous waste but were registered as a large quantity generator, marked transfer facility, or if the facility is a short-term generator. Also, if you are making any changes, then you should input the details here. Section 20, the HW1 form will not be accepted without an original wet ink signature and complete date. A certifier must be someone with authority in the facility. An authorized representative is someone who is responsible for the overall operation of the site or operational unit. Addendum A, complete this page if the facility had HSM activities. Mark yes in section 17. You are required to submit this information on the 2023 biennial report. You must complete all of section 2. Here are examples of the HSM facility codes. Here are the land-based unit codes. As stated earlier, the prior HW1 with hazardous secondary material notification estimated quantities should match the estimated HSM quantities on the biennial report. Addendum B, episodic generator. Episodic generation is not an activity used by large quantity generators. If you mark yes in section 15, then you must fill out Addendum C. The VSQG should have an EPA ID number if they are located in Louisiana. You can see the facility's EPA ID by going to rcrapublic.epa.gov. Kenneth Edwards will now begin the 8700-12 form portion of the webinar.
All right. Moving on to the RCRA Subtitle C reporting forms. This booklet has over 100 pages of helpful info. It has tables of facility codes, hazardous waste codes, etc. that should answer many of your questions. All right. So the HW1 form is based off the site identification form, so you'll notice that most of the information will be similar. Similar to the HW1 form, Section 1 of the Site ID form has multiple options for the reason for submittal. If you want to use this form for the annual report, then you must check for the corresponding box for that option. Also, make sure that you're including the correct year for the report. If the facility was a TSD, treater, storer, or disposer, or an LQG, or large quantity generator, then this box will need to be marked. For Section 2, EPA ID number, make sure that this is your correct 12-digit number, and please list the AI number next to this EPA ID number. For Section 3, legal site name, you can check what the current information for the facility is at rcrapublic.epa.gov to make sure that it matches. All right, Section 4, site location address, the physical address of the facility. Section 5, site mailing address. If this matches the location, then just mark the box and leave the section blank. Section 6, mark the correct box for the site land type. For Section 7, NAICS codes, you must have at least one valid 6-digit code. Also, you will see that there is a place to input page numbers. Please input page numbers to keep the form in order. At the top of every page, you will see the EPA ID number section. Please fill this out with your EPA ID number. This helps to keep the report together. For Section 8, if the site contact address is the same as the location address, then mark this box. This box does not add the email, name, and phone number. It only copies the address. So please make sure that this is the best contact for any hazardous waste questions, because this person will be contacted if there are any issues with the form. For Section 9, legal owner and operator of site, this should include the most accurate contact information for the owners or operators. If the legal owner does not match the legal property owner, then the property owner will need to be listed in Section 18 comments. If they do match, make a note in the owner comment section in Section 9A. If the legal owner and or the legal operator addresses match the facility's address, you can mark the box, or you mark this box specifically, instead of inputting the address. The box will only copy the address, again, so the name and contact info will need to be completed. If the owner or operator addresses do not match the facility, then those sections will need to be completed fully. The dates should be the best date that are available, and they should be completed in month, day, year format. For Section 10, type of regulated waste activity, Section 10A1, generator of hazardous waste. This section is describing the current status of the facility, so do not mark what the facility was during the reporting year. For A2, if yes is marked, a short-term generator must provide details in Section 18 comments. For A3 through 5, if marking yes, do you have the hazardous waste permit or the proper approval? For Section A6, mark yes for all options that apply to the facility. Section 10B, you must have at least one valid waste code listed. You can find them in the RCRA Subtitle C, Reporting Instructions, the Louisiana Administrative Code, Title 33, Part 5, Chapter 4901, or a list can be emailed upon request. Please list the waste codes in order starting in the top left, moving to the right. If you need more space, you can use the comment section. For 10C, Louisiana does not have state hazardous waste codes, so you don't have to fill that out. For Section 11A, other waste activities, and 11B, universal waste activities, if any of these activities apply to the facility, mark yes. If yes is marked for A1B or B2, we will need to verify the proper permit or approval. For Section 11C, used oil activities, if any of these activities apply to the facility, mark yes. If yes is marked for C1B, again, do you have the proper approval? For Section 11D and Section 12 notifications, Louisiana has not adopted these activities. For Section 13, episodic generation should not be completed because episodic generation is not an activity used by large quantity generators. Waste from an approved episodic generation should not be reported on the biannual report. If you mark yes for Section 14, then you must complete the addendum to site ID form, LQG consolidation of VSQG hazardous waste. You do not have to complete Section 15 for the biannual report, but again, if you're using the biannual report to notify a large quantity generator closure, then the LQG closure regulations must be followed. If yes is marked for Section 16, notifications of hazardous secondary material or HSM activity, then you must complete addendum to the site ID form, notification of hazardous waste secondary material activity. For Section 17, electronic manifest broker notifications should be submitted to the EPA because Louisiana has not adopted this program. For Section 18, comment section, if the facility did not generate any hazardous waste but were registered as a large quantity generator, mark yes for transfer facility, mark yes for short-term generator, or mark any changes, then you'll need to input the details here. The form will not be accepted without an original wet ink signature and complete date. Only one signature is needed for the biannual report. A certifier must be someone with authority in the facility. An authorized representative is someone who is responsible for the overall operation of the site or operational unit. All right. Complete this page if the facility has HSM activities. Mark yes in Section 16. You are required to submit this information on the 2023 biannual report. You must complete Section 2. And here are some examples of HSM facility codes. And here are some examples of land-based unit codes. For Section 13, episodic generation. Again, episodic generation is not an activity used by large quantity generators. If yes was marked in Section 14, then you must fill out LQG consolidation. The VSQG should have an EPA ID number. You can see the facility's EPA ID number by going to rcra.public.epa.gov. All right, for generation and management or GM forms, this describes the waste that was generated and managed at your facility. It is up to the facility to determine the waste codes and descriptions of waste activities. Make sure to remember to list the facility's EPA ID number at the top of the page. All All right, for 1A, waste description, it's just a short explanation of the waste, the general type of waste, the source, type of hazard, and generic chemical name. For 1B, EPA hazardous waste code, a four-digit codes that apply to the waste. And for 1D, only one source code per GM form. If you use G25, treatment, disposal, recycling code, then you must insert the management method code. Otherwise, leave it blank. If you use G62, receive waste from outside the US, then you must insert the code for the country which sent you the waste. Otherwise, leave it blank. For 1E, only one form code per GM form. 1F, waste minimization code. For 1G, yes or no must be marked. For 1H, unit of measurement, we can only accept these unit of measurement codes. You can find these on page 63 or 64 of the RCRA Subtitle C reporting instructions. You only have to complete the density section if you choose unit of measurement codes 5, 6, or 7. And don't forget to mark the unit of measurement for the density. As a reminder, starting with the 2023 biennial report, there will be new and deactivated management method codes. For number 2, did you treat on site? If yes, select the management method code and quantity. Number 3, did you ship off-site? If yes, and put the EPA ID number of the receiving facility, select the management method code they used and quantity that was shipped to them. This should be all on the manifest they send you. Here's some code examples. For number 3B, make sure that the EPA ID number actually exists and is 12 characters. You'll need this information for the OI form. If the quantity generation noted in section 1H does not match the quantity treated in section 2 or the quantity shipped off, then explain the discrepancy in the comment section. All right, the page numbers restart for GM pages. So if you need 3 GM forms, then your pages would be 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and then 3 of 3. All right, for waste received from off-site, WR form, describe the waste that your facility received from off-site facilities. Again, list the facility's EPA ID number at the top of the page. This is similar to the generation and management form. The major difference is you have to list the EPA ID number of the generating facility in 1D. Check RCRA public.epa.gov to verify that the EPA ID number you're listing is a valid EPA ID number. There are 3 sections per page for different wastes. And again, the page numbers restart for WR forms. All right, off-site identification or OI form. List the sites that transported the waste, the sites that received the waste, and, if applicable, the facilities that shipped waste to you. Again, list the facility's EPA ID number at the top of the page. The manifest should have all this information. You could double check on RCRA public.epa.gov. For section 1C, do not forget to mark the correct classification. It is rare that the same EPA ID number will be a transporter and generator, but you could double check this by looking up the profile on RCRA public.epa.gov to make sure they have transporter listed on their profile. All right, the page numbers restart for the OI form as well. And this concludes the instructions of the hazardous waste biannual report paper submittal process. Again, electronic submittals using the RCRA info reporting module are highly encouraged, but we will accept paper submissions as well. All right, so the next slides include contact information and helpful resources that assist with the submission of the hazardous waste biannual report or other inquiries you may have. The waste notifications and reporting group will be the best resource if you have any questions. Everyone within this group has access to the email listed below. Please use the parish of the facility's physical location to determine the surveillance regional office. And surveillance regional office phone numbers and emails are listed here. If you're classified as a small business, the Small Business Assistance Program is another resource. And please note that the Small Business Assistance Program regions are different from the surveillance regions. And here are some other helpful online resources. NAICS website, links to state and federal forms and info, and EDMS if you would like to review past submissions. And to finish off the presentation, Jennifer Williams.
Okay, now I just want to go through a few reminders and things that we've seen in the past that causes rejections of the reports. It's kind of like a heads up or FYI. Reports are due March 1st, 2024. Just remember, reports are due every year, March 1st. If you start an electronic submission and you decide to send a hard copy for DEQ to enter, the electronic submission must be deleted on your end before we can enter the report. So just be mindful of that. There are cases to where facilities decided to submit a hard copy because they could not get that person with that title in order to have certifier or site management permission. So they send the hard copy, but you have to delete that electronic submission in order for us to enter it. Louisiana does require all transporters used during the reporting year listed on the OI form. Majority of the reports are rejected for missing transporters. So remember to enter those transporters. The system is not going to remind you because it's not a requirement for every state. But again, Louisiana does require transporters used during the reporting year to be listed on the OI form. If the report is rejected, or maybe you request DEQ send it back to you to make additional edits, the reporting requirements have not been fulfilled until we receive the report again and accept it. So keep that in mind. If you're requesting it to be sent back, we will send it back to you, but you have to submit it again in order for us to review and accept it. Remember, the EPA did make updates to the management method codes. There were a few that were deactivated, some that were added, some that replaced others. So just keep that in mind as far as when you're entering the information for management method codes. Also, validations, that validation feature that I went over earlier for the electronic submittals, it cannot be circumvented by sending a hard copy of the report. So if something happens to where you're submitting that electronic report and you cannot submit because you haven't fulfilled the requirements for those validations, if you send that hard copy, it's still going to give us those validation triggers on our end as well. So we still need that information. We still need those explanations if you get any validation issues. The EPA has created a user guide that includes the reasons for validation warnings and errors, gives a few explanations as to why you may be receiving those errors or those warnings. It is available on RCRA Info. If you need help accessing it, I will be able to assist as far as letting you know how to access it. You can access it from the document library. But if you need access or you need help getting to it to access it, I'll be more than happy to help you with that. So just send us an email or give me a call if you can't find it on RCRA Info. If the facility did not generate any waste during the reporting year, the exempt option that we also went over, I think that will be the easiest way to report electronically. You can still submit that SI form and include that comment stating that the facility did not generate any waste. But sometimes that is forgotten when facilities submit that SI form. But the exempt option reminds you because it does require that comment. The current generator status at the time you're completing the report, that's the status that should be marked on the report. Do not include the generator status during the reporting year if it differs from what you would be reporting. If let's say, for instance, if at some point during the reporting year, the facility submitted an HW1 form and was submitting to drop the status from LQG down to small quantity generator or very small quantity generator. If you submit that HW1 form and you update your status to an SQG or a VSQG, and then afterwards you submit that report, later marking LQG, then this will change your status back to LQG. So be mindful and please ensure that you are marking the current status of the facility. I try to catch those instances and compare if a facility has submitted an HW1 during the reporting year, but sometimes it could slip through the cracks. So this is just a reminder to make sure you're marking the current status. Thank you all. And again, if you have any questions, I put up the slide with our email information and also our phone numbers. We'll be more than welcome to answer any questions that you have if you think of them at a later time. And just remember, March 1st is the deadline for reports.